Hey everyone, Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of boards, recorder of videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to their DM's Guild Review, my written and video view series. We take a look at the adventures and supplemental material at the Dungeon Masters Guild website. For this video, I'll be reviewing the Paladin subclass, Oath of the Nightbringer, designed by MT Black for Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. A review copy has been provided for the purposes of this review. If you enjoy my videos, consider using my affiliate links for your online shopping, supporting me via patreon.com/roguewatson. Shout out to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Time Dancer, Manuel, Wizard, Princess, Christopher, Star, Lovely, Thomas, Ian, Captain Mike, Jeremy, Adam, and Leroy. And Gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Charming Grenade, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcos, David, Vicente, Gilberto, Dead Lizard, Lion, Sam, Ross, Limpy Spuds, Jerome, Fatboy619, Sclenny, Nick, Farty McButterpants, Blood, Angel, Veronis, and the Fireworks Factory. Thank you all very much for your support. Paladin is probably one of the stronger classes in D&D 5e, and it's not usually an archetype or a character concept that I ever gravitated to in RPGs. The idea of the holy warrior, the chivalric knight, just seemed kind of lame. I was always more of the rogue or warlock or sorcerer, the ones I've been more attracted to. But the 5th edition paladin is a very well designed class because you've got good tanking, you've got healing capabilities. The spells complement somebody who's up in the thick of things very well with a lot of bonus action spells. And you can always convert all your spells into divine smites to even just turn every spell into just more raw damage. It works. The paladin works very, very well. That being said, I don't know if the paladin has the most interesting subclasses. They all feel kind of samey, and maybe that's a problem of the paladin itself being a very rigidly defined, like you are. I will say at least they open it up so it's not just necessarily a holy warrior. It's a chivalric warrior. It's someone who has a code of ethics, or you are tied to like the law itself or something along those lines. But for some reason it lends itself to just not very diverse subclasses the way others. For example, the fighter can go into an Eldritch Knight and suddenly gain spells. Same with the rogue with Arcane Trickster. The warlock, like all the different patrons, have vastly different abilities from each other. And you don't really see anything that's too like crazy. You know, like even the fighter gets the superiority dice. That's a whole new like mechanic on top of it. The paladin, they all have their channel divinities, and then they all typically have auras. There's a lot of overlap, so you're gonna see that complaint here. And partially that's on the designer, but partially I think that's on just paladins in general. How do you make a subclass, and I'm sure I've reviewed some in the past, for paladins that feel different from all the others? And unfortunately, it's even worse now because with Xanathars and Tashas, you've got that many more subclasses. And they still all kind of feel very similar, just replacing certain like damage types or debilitating conditions they give, but everybody's got the auras that have some kind of buff or debuff, and in this case, even the level 20 ability is just kind of the dark version of the Oath of Devotion's holy light that comes around. Instead, it's darkness here. So the Nightbringer in this case is a holy warrior that is devoted to Shar. Now, those of you that have been watching this channel for a while know that I am not exactly an expert on the Forgotten Realms. I'm pretty much one of those that came into D&D with 5th edition. I do have some video game experience, so I recognize some things, like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights, but didn't really play much of the older editions. So Shar, from what I could remember, I thought maybe she was the goddess of like seduction and lust, which I think that may still be the case, but she's the goddess of night, even though there's also another god and goddess of night, I think, or no, she is the goddess of night. So it's Saloon is the goddess of light and knowledge, and Shar of darkness, secrets, and loss. Thankfully, as you can see here, this supplement includes an entire page of lore dedicated to Shar, which I am very thankful for because I didn't remember who Shar was, which is very nice. So literally, the Nightbringer is it's literal, like you worship the night, the goddess of night, and so all your abilities have to do with inflicting darkness or casting the darkness spell or being able to see through darkness. And for that reason, it's a pretty thematically sound class. But is it Interesting. So the Channel Divinity, first of all, you get new oath spells. They all have their own oath spells. We do get new spells in this supplement, which I'll get to in a second. For some reason, only one of which is actually included in the spells, which I find to be a bizarre oversight. Because if you're going to give me half a dozen awesome themed spells, why are we not including those in the oath spells that you get for choosing that class? It doesn't make any sense to me. So it looks like only one of them, which is Cause Fear, has actually been added from the new spells, which are included in the supplement. I'm not going to include that as a con. It just seems like I don't know how we missed that, but that should have been included in the Oath of Nightbringer spells. If you're going to make all those new spells, include that in the Oath spell list. So the Channel Divinity, which they all include 2, same as a cleric and other paladins. Night Falls allows you to have a 30-foot radius of just an AoE blind that they have to make a wisdom save for. That works pretty well. It's very thematic. It's also very similar to the Oath of Conquest's ability, which is, I believe it's called Conquering Presence. And literally it's the same thing, except it frightens everybody around you, which Frighten could work for Nightbringer also, and they do it for the aura later on. But you can see it just changes. It's the exact same mechanic. It just changes it from Frighten to Blind. So again, to me, that's just... yeah. It's almost like you could just take the Oath of Conquest and change a few abilities and be like, okay, now I've created the Oath of the Nightbringer. Like, yes, that's thematically sound, but is it really that interesting? It's not different enough from the Oath of Conquest. Eyes of Shar is pretty good. The other Channel Divinity gives everybody magical darkness sight, like Devil's Sight, basically, out to 120 feet for 10 minutes. That's very, very nice. Very, very nice. And I don't think the Paladin is anything like that, where you can give literally AoE. I don't know if anybody has that, actually. You can give... oh, sorry, it's not AoE. It's just yourself. It's just yourself. I misread that. You can give yourself the ability to see magical and non-magical out to a distance of 120 feet. Still very useful, because I believe even the ones that get Dark Vision are only 60 feet. So both Channel Divinities are sound. Only Eyes of Shar, I think, is actually a little more unique. Aura of Intimidation. I don't think the other ones have anything like this, but still, it's pretty similar. Like, basically, it's a 10-foot aura. If anybody attacks you, they have to make a Wisdom saving throw, or they become frightened of you. That's pretty sound. But again, just... do all paladins need to have the aura? Maybe it's too... it just feels too samey at this point. Like, there's so many paladin oaths, so it's like, okay, it feels too formulaic. And nothing breaks it up. And again, that's partially the designer's fault, but also partially just paladin subclasses in general. All these oaths, they just all work like that. They're like, okay, you've got, here's your aura that's going to do something. And there's already precedents for, like, bad, debuffing auras too that are already present in addition to the buffing auras or the protective auras. So it's not like that's a new thing either. It's really bad with Malignant Approach, which is the 15th level ability. A lot of level 15 abilities are like passive skills or just things that are added on to, like, your auras. In this case, again, we look at the Oath of Conquest, which has the Scornful Rebuke. Here, the Malignant Reproach, which is almost just like you put in a name generator and just change the words around. Whenever a creature hits you within the aura, is it within the aura? When the attack, the creature takes... I don't even think it's within the aura. It's just whenever they hit you, then they take necrotic damage equal to your charisma modifier. Meanwhile, Scornful Reproach is the exact same thing, except I believe it's psychic damage equal to your charisma modifier. It literally just changes the damage type, and that's the only difference. And then the 20th level ability is and a lot of the paladins do this, you turn on some kind of super mode. And this is the darkness version of the Oath of Devotion's Holy Nimbus, which they can turn on that pillar of light that deals damage to everybody. Obviously, it shines light everywhere. I believe it has some kind of protection, maybe advantages on saves or something. And the Dreadbringer of Night just puts magical darkness everywhere, up to 30 feet. Now, you can choose people that can see through it normally, which it's a 20th level ability, so I hope it'd be pretty good. And it deals necrotic damage instead of dealing radiant damage. You can cast the spell Cause Fear as a bonus action. That's pretty fun, but otherwise, it's just like the dark version of the Holy Nimbus ability. So, yes, it is a soundly thematic design. It feels well balanced, and it should, because I think it mostly just takes existing abilities from other paladin subclasses and just rethemes them to this oath. Now, that's not a bad approach to building a subclass. you're going to end up with something that's going to be pretty well designed. And frankly, if you were going to re-flavor a class, a subclass, because you're saying, okay, you know, I have a great character concept, but I really want to be devoted to Shar, you know, the goddess of night. And as a DM, you know, you and the player can work together and be like, okay, what if you do the Oath of Conquest, but instead we just replace certain damage types and certain abilities. That's basically what this is. Which I just don't think is, like, it's fine, but I don't know if it's good enough. I don't know. Maybe the standards have been raised. It just doesn't feel like it does enough interesting things or bring new approaches to the Paladin subclass. Instead, it really is just like a re-themed version of specifically the Oath of Conquest, but also drawing from a few other Paladin subclasses to create this subclass. So that's what you're going to get. Now, the big advantages are we'll go over this with my pros, but the lore is awesome and super helpful for me, and the spells are really good. I actually went back and looked through the spells for Paladins, and I still like their spell list a lot, but it's not a whole lot of like straight damage spells, which makes sense because your damage is usually going to be just you melee attacking and then empowering. You know, if you're going to use spell slots, you're going to use that for Divine Smites. But in this case, the designer added a bunch of straight damaging spells. So Frightful Smite adds damage. Eye for an Eye is like a super powered 4th level Hellish Rebuke in terms of a reaction. There's another really good reaction spell on here, Killing Ground, where anytime you reduce a creature to 0 hit points, you cast it as a reaction. You turn everything into difficult terrain, and it basically creates this ongoing AoE effect that deals damage and even buffs up like the first attack you hit a creature on. Just a really cool spell. A lot of high level spells too, 4th and 5th level spells to really reward higher level paladins. So it's generally a big thumbs up on the spells, and I think they're very thematically appropriate to a more evil, aggressive, violent, darkness-themed paladin for sure, which could also work for, you know, the nice thing is this spell list would work great for, you know, the Oath of Conquest, and the Oath of Vengeance, and the Oath Breaker, I think is one of them. You know, all of the more evil themed, the Blackguard paladin concept, these would be really fun spells to use for that. It's just very bizarre that these spells, which are good, were not included on the Oath spells for the Nightbringer itself. That just feels like an odd oversight, but definitely a thumbs up on the included spells. This product might easily be worth it actually alone for the spells if you want, you know, obviously DM allows it, but for more just aggressive, thematically darker and evil paladin spells that feel really, really fun. I especially like spells that use the reaction in really fun ways that helps break up that action economy and gives you a chance to do things. But wait, there, you know, as somebody who uses Warlock a lot with Hellish Rebuke and has a lot of fun with that, that's always a fun ability. All right, pros and cons, because it's a very short product, only 6 pages, a single subclass. Pros, pretty much the ones I just mentioned. Over half a dozen new spells thematically tied to fear and darkness. I think they're all pretty good. A lot of them are higher level, and these are the ones that add a lot to the paladin. None of these are repeated, you know, or overlapping with the paladin existing spells. They all feel like they basically deal damage. There are a lot of necrotic stuff. Very thematically appropriate for a dark paladin. And the other pro is this full page lore of Shar, which is very useful to somebody like me who does not remember what Shar is all about, and goes over, like, you know, who their followers are, what they believe in, why Shar is kind of a, you know, one of the evil amongst the evil pantheon, is generally shunned. All that information is very, very helpful to have. Cons is unfortunately kind of the class itself, which is that the powers just overlap too much with existing subclasses. So if you want your subclass to just be a rethemed version of existing subclasses, then this is fine. But if you're really looking for something with new abilities or new concepts or new ideas, I don't think it really brings any of that, other than maybe granting yourself magical sight, like Devil's Sight with Channel Divinity is kind of interesting, but otherwise it's just too much of Paladin subclasses that we've already seen. So just fortunately not as interesting as I feel like it could have been. Final verdict, Oath of the Nightbringer provides dark and fear-themed powers and spells for a Shar-worshipping paladin, while also revealing the lack of diversity in paladin subclasses. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. You can see my written review at roguewatson.com. You can support my work at patreon.com/roguewatson. You can follow our own D&D adventures here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.